with David Ian and Kate Dale.
The show that plumbs the depths of mediocrity, celebrates the ordinary, and enjoys the everyday.
Welcome to Mediocre, the podcast. I'm David Ian.
And I'm Kate Dale.
And what have you been up to this week, Kate?
This week, David, I've been making sauerkraut.
I didn't ask you what was mediocre.
Well, that's what I had been doing, though. And it turns out that I have been mediocrely making a possibly mediocre dish, which is sauerkraut. Do you know how to make sauerkraut? Do you even know what it is?
Barely.
So it's because I get a fortnightly veg box. And at this time of year, there's a glut of cabbages. And, you know, we are living in hard times. So I was trying to think about how I preserve my cabbages.
Okay.
So
we were talking about what could we put on a T-shirt.
Yes.
How do I preserve my cabbages?
Oh, it gets better.
Okay.
Because I looked at how to make sauerkraut. I quite like sauerkraut. And you have to massage your cabbage.
Oh, God.
So you shred your cabbage, sprinkle salt in it, and then you spend 5 minutes massaging it. Then you rest for 5 minutes and you massage it again.
Oh, God.
And it's the most hands-on physical activity I've done in a very long time.
Yes, it sounds very much like a lonely old woman activity.
Yes.
I should probably take it up.
and then the genius of that is then you just let nature and things going off do the work. It's science. So then it's like sitting in the corner of my kitchen. I give it a bit of a stir every morning.
It's
like having a pet, actually, yeah, because it ferments for 2 weeks.
What was that thing that everybody was doing?
Sourdough.
No, is it a sourdough? And it everybody, you'd give someone a bit and they would grow. What was that?
Friendship cake.
I think
that's what we did. Oh, this was in Carlisle in the 80s they had, but it was basically a yeast thing and it would double in size. I think it sounds like an infection, but that
you
works.
Probably did give it to friends.
Genuinely will be working in exactly the same way, thinking about it.
I can't remember what it was, but there was something, I don't know. Anyway.
I think what we've established is that I'm going to be going and throwing my sauerkraut out because now I've just started talking about yeast infections.
Is it nice? Not the yeast infection.
They're not nice. They're awful, by the way.
It's not really a PSI, is it?
Yeah, if you like shredded vinegary cabbage.
I don't.
The thing is, what's amazing, I thought you pickled it in vinegar, but you don't. You just salt in its own juices. Oh, God, I'm making it sound revolting, aren't I?
Yeah.
I've ruined sauerkraut for everyone, but I don't think that's massively a problem. I don't think not many
The only thing that would make this more complete is if you told me that you did this on a Saturday night.
It's very possible.
Great. On that note, who have we got with us this week?
Well, saving us all from fermented cabbage is the wonderful, brilliantly talented author, Miss Helen Juliet.
Welcome.
Hello. Thank you very much for having me today.
Welcome to Mediocre, Helen. So,
looking mighty fine today,
yes.
I might add.
Oh, thank you.
Love the hair.
I love that colour. That pink really suits you as well.
Oh, I'll come back more often. Tell me more things about myself.
You have to do something about yourself. So, tell us about your writing and your books.
So I am an romance author. I kind of tend to tell people that I'm a gay romance author because it conveys the genre quicker. But we say because we want to include bisexual characters. I've written a lot of non-binary characters. But yeah, I write Hallmark basically, a little bit spicier. Than your average Hallmark. But I just like writing happy ever afters, basically.
How did you get into that?
I wrote fan fiction for 15 years.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I was, it was just my kind of happy place. I was stuck in an office job that I really, really hated for a decade. I just would lose myself in these kind of... I wrote one thing for 10 years and really obsessed about it and then I sort of released it and then I was like, what do I do with myself? And then I sort of tripped into writing back in the day you'd call it slash fiction, which is when you take two characters that canonically probably not that into each other, but because we're so starved of gay representation or LGBT queer representation in the media, we went hunting, we went sniffing out for any kind of character that had any kind of chemistry. It really kind of started with Spock and Kirk in Star Trek back in the 60s, and you had these women that were writing, they were literally like producing these like handmade magazines and like, you know, distributing it like on such a small scale, and it grew. And then obviously with the internet, over the creation of the internet, it became, you know, such a huge thing that actually everybody had access to. And people would take characters that they loved and they thought had chemistry, and they would be so frustrated with the lack of representation that they would be like, "Oh, I'm going to do it myself."
Why do you think it started with women?
It's interesting, and I don't necessarily have all the answers, because I'd say that romance is dominated by women. People like to say straight women, but I think a lot of women find their sexuality through writing things like this. I'd sort of worked out by the time I was in my 30s that I was pansexual, but I realized I was non-binary by writing a non-binary character. And I think there's something really quite beautiful in a world filled with such toxic masculinity, of taking male characters and actually finding something really beautiful and gentle and loving and sweet and sort of vulnerable, and sort of exploring those kind of narratives.
Now all I need to do is find that in my real life. Because I agree, I think that would be sweet and lovely.
Aww.
I'm just thinking, because I know, Helen, a lot of the themes for yours, or a lot of your inspiration comes from fairy tales. So I'm just thinking these are Goldilocks. But you've done Goldilocks.
I've done Goldilocks, yeah. So I've got 2 pen names, actually. Helen Juliet writes or reimagines contemporary versions of fairy tales. And I've done about, I don't even know, a dozen of those now, one of which was Goldilocks. That one was filthy.
What do you expect from 3 bears?
Well, yeah, that was it. And then the other one is like small town American. So I've got a British pen name and an American pen name, because most readers are American in romance. And when I was starting out, I was advised if I really wanted to actually, you know, do this full time and make money, it would be better to set the books in American. I was like, well, I've already written a few of these British books, and that was really quite important to me. So I was like, I'll just do 2. You know, why not?
Multiple identities.
Yes.
Familiar with that. Okay, so what does the word mediocre mean to you, Helen?
Kind of the bare minimum. Like, oh, bless, you tried.
Do you know, I feel I should say that Helen and I are in a musical theatre group together where I think I barely even get to the level of mediocre.
Does she make it to mediocre?
Oh, she does.
Helen is meant to
never call her a back row bitch.
I've seen her, so
I'm too busy normally moaning about being stuck in the back row. But anyway,
she makes an excellent tree.
Yes. I was a door once.
You were a door. You were a very good door.
Can you stand still enough to be a tree or a door?
Well, no, I was really method with the door, because the person who was supposed to close me, and he didn't, and I didn't close myself, as I stayed open.
She's been raging about it for 3 years.
I've been raging about it for 3 years. Literally, this is not any sort of an livid, because he forgot to close me, and we practiced, and he kept forgetting to close me.
There must be a joke in here somewhere about you being left open.
Yes.
I can't quite formulate it.
But you know how with comedy
Phil,
you
you're
can't,
joking yourself.
You can't make jokes until you finish processing something.
And you
still,
haven't finished processing it. I have a strict rule that you don't put something on stage that you haven't completely processed yourself. This is why it's not come up in her set.
Yet. Might do. I might
give it another 3 years, it'll be fine.
Then it'll all be door-based material.
It's doors today.
Doors and knobs.
Oh, we could do a double show, couldn't we? And that could be it.
Sell out.
Lovely.
Anyway, it's not about us, it's about Helen.
Yeah, okay.
So, bare minimum. And do you see that as a level of it being acceptable because it's a minimum, so it's fine, it's adequate, it does a job, or not good enough?
I think it depends. I'm a massive overachiever. But I think that there is joy in going, you know what, that's good enough. You know, like
a freedom.
Yeah, I think so. And like, I think it's choosing what matters to you and what doesn't. Like, you know, we do musical theatre, but we also do dance. And I'm like, I'm not the best dancer. Like, might not get all the choreography, but I love it. Like, I love it and it makes me happy. So, you know, in that instance, I'm not looking to be the best. I'm not looking to be front and centre and look at me.
And there is a freedom that comes with that, right?
Absolutely.
I dance as well, and I don't want to move up to like the advanced group or anything. I'm just happy to be present. Sometimes barely present.
And I wonder as well, particularly for queer people, and I think also for women as well, for all sorts of reasons, the way we brought up, that we have that need to overachieve, that perfection, that drive to be the best. Actually getting to a stage where you can say, do you know what, I can go and do something badly or barely acceptably just for the joy of doing it, and just because it's a real joy.
Get on a soapbox for a second. I think, we live in a capitalist society that really does want to monetize everything, and like says that you should, if you're not, what's the point in doing something unless it's, earning you money? And it's like, I just want to go be average at something.
That's a really bad message, isn't it? Yeah.
However, if anybody does want to sponsor Mediocre Gay, then do feel free to get in touch.
And by Mediocre Gay, she means me. So what do you love that you think other people think is mediocre generally?
You're in trouble now.
It's been a while since a woman said that to me. It's been a while since anyone said that to me.
I love Eurovision. And I'm obsessed with it for like 6 months of the year. Like, people don't even know that there are semi-finals in Eurovision. They think it's like a thing that happens on a Saturday night. They tune in to have a laugh. It's literally my life from like the end of December until the middle of May.
See, I'm going to slightly call you out on that, because I wouldn't say it was only 6 months of the year, Helen.
I know, I was surprised when she said 6 months of the year.
I think you're in denial.
True.
So the other 6
from what
months,
I understand, it's more.
I sort of have to try and take a step back and give myself a break, because I do actually get kind of fatigue with it, because it's exhausting caring that much. But I mean, I'm still got my finger on the button and on the pulse, and I know what's happening all the time. And I just love it. I watch the national finals, and I'm just like.
And that's the national finals of every country.
I mean, not every country, but there are. I think so. There's usually about 40 countries that take part, and I'd say about half of those tend to have some sort of national final. And last year, I think I managed to watch 7. And this year I'm like, well, I can do better than that. Overachiever as always. Yeah. And it doesn't bother me if it's not, it's not in English. Like, I love watching the French and German ones and just being like, oh, I recognize that one word. It doesn't matter.
And what is it about you? Like, what is it about it that you love?
People always ask me this, and like, I'm so entrenched in it. Sometimes it's kind of hard to answer. I think I love it's competition. So that's like, I get why people like love football, because of my I can see it.
Well, you were a competitive cheerleader, weren't you?
I was a competitive cheerleader, yes.
We can come back to.
There we go.
Wow.
Yeah, that was my, before I was a writer, I was a cheerleader. And I was like, well, who am I if I'm not a cheerleader? So I was like, well, I better be a writer then.
I mean, that's a logical step.
It is, isn't it? I mean,
I think most cheerleaders go
a tale as old as time, is it not?
That's definitely.
Yeah. So what was I talking about with Eurovision?
Why you love it.
Why I love it. So a competition. I love the fact that everybody has the same rules. Like, it's quite basic. Like, you've got 3 minutes, no more than 6 people on stage, live vocals, recorded everything else. Has to be a new song as of the 1st of September. And that's pretty much it. And like, not too political. Like,
there's a limit to how many people you can have involved as well, isn't there?
In terms of like the team,
like in terms of like on stage.
Oh, on stage, you're only allowed 6 people on stage, which they got wrong in the Eurovision film. And I love the Eurovision film so much. Fire Saga. I literally watched it again the other night, and I've lost count.
It's a great.
Lost count of how many times I've watched it.
I like the music in it.
Oh,
and the cameos are
that
really good.
Set piece at the end, or towards the end.
It's a real Eurovision. Like,
it's a love letter. It really is. Which is why I was like, why are there 7 people on this stage? I think you can really tell that the people involved in that, they really knew what they were talking about, and like the music is fantastic. It's such a great
it's great
soundtrack. But like so I love that you have these kind of, that's it for the rules, and the what you get out of it is so wildly different. And I think I do love it because it's so queer. And I found out only recently that one of the reasons that is because sometime back in I think, so it's been going since 1956. And I think it was sometime in the 60s or 70s. Basically, they stipulated that if your costumes were something that you couldn't wear down the street, then you got a tax break for it. And I think that's where this kind of outrage. Yeah, I had no idea. Like, a friend who was not even into Eurovision was like, I just found out this thing. Did you know? And I was like, I did not. So I think that's where the kind of outrageousness came from. And I think that's where it's sort of drawn such a queer audience. So yeah, I love it. I feel like it's a haven for, like it isn't mainstream. Mainstream music is different. It's, a song that's successful in Eurovision isn't necessarily going to be successful around the world. That's what's so joyful and wonderful about them. Måneskin winning last year, and they've actually gone on to be global superstars. And I absolutely love them. They were my winners that year. So that was a particularly great one for me.
Why do you love it?
I am nowhere near the levels of Helen knowledge, so I'm now slightly scared. And I have to say,
I will correct you if you get anything wrong.
You don't need any knowledge. It's why do you love it?
So I remember watching it as a child growing up. It was a Lemonade and Crisps night. So absolutely, it's just coming in, watching it on a Saturday night. My first memory of anyone winning was, God, I'm so old, Brotherhood of Man, Kisses for Me. And I remember watching...
We're not the same age for anyone.
Even though we clearly look it, because... this is a complete aside, I got my 4th COVID jab yesterday, and they wouldn't believe I was 50 and entitled to get it. I had to prove
that.
Yes.
Someone definitely told Kate that.
So it's family memory, Lemonade and Crisps night, and that's sort of all sitting around. The box in the corner. It wasn't in black and white. It was in colour. To be clear, and then being very excited. Being very excited to bring back to Phase 1 and being sort of getting behind that. And so it's just been that sort of part of life growing up, I think, and part of that rhythm of life. It's just fun and joyful. And then I think there was a bit about the more people got disparaged, and that when everyone got far too serious about things, and it probably wasn't, maybe it did dip, I don't know, and it's quality, I don't know.
Well, I think the actual production standards really took a turn in around 2004, I think it was, and you could really see the difference between. I mean, you look at the stuff from the late 90s, and it's you barely watch it, like it's so bad. And I think, I think that's when a lot of the actual the people that were running it, they took a step back and was like, no, we need to keep this relevant. I think we have a lot of that to thank for Sweden, and they've been running Melodifestivalen for almost as long as Eurovision itself has been running, and that's their kind of mini Eurovision to pick their winner. And their quality and their standards are so good that Eurovision actually started copying them and using. That's why the points system changed a few years ago, where they and
that was a really good change.
Yeah,
that's made it super exciting.
Yeah,
Eurovision's really exciting or really interesting to me. So you'll be able to get my dates around this, because I think it's the late 90s that is quite relevant to me. So Katrina and the Waves won in 97.
Yeah.
I remember when, so I was 11 and she had that big collar, and I remember I was in the boys' brigade because I was too gay for the Scouts.
Naturally.
And I remember we did this big, I can't remember what it was, but some sort of performance, and Love Shine Light was on it, and it was really cool. And then obviously it was held in the UK.
Yes.
Now this is where my dates get confused. Dana International.
It was 99.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think it's at that point where I was like, God, this is really...
Oh no, if I got that wrong.
No, see,
I'll be so embarrassed. If it's no, I think it might have been 9. No, it was 98.
98.
Sweden won again in 99. So yes, Dana International.
Won in the UK.
And she won in the UK, and we came second.
Right. So I was like, really... I don't at that point I was 12. It was held in the UK. I got interested because of Katrina and the Waves. It was held in the UK. So I was watching. It was a big deal. And then Dana International comes on. Mm-hmm. And as a 12-year-old boy who has no idea who they are, how they fit into the world or anything like that, to see Dana International...
Yeah, who's a trans woman, if people aren't aware.
I really probably should give some context.
But to see it, and it wasn't a joke act or anything. No. She was genuine, and she was from Israel, and to see that kind of progressive representation was quite
I've got
shocking.
A shiver, just talking about it now. It was really important and formative to me, and
it feels progressive even now. To think that was 24 years ago.
Not that long ago. But just the other day, I was saying to you, I was in a club in southeast London where they have drag on, and Mary Mack came on and did Viva La Diva, and there was loads of kids kids, like the 18, the 20
The younglings.
They had no idea, and I could hear a couple of them being like, what's this song? And I was just like, wow, this song is so important to me. And you have absolutely no idea like about its cultural
And
importance.
I think this is something else that I love about Eurovision is a kind of storytelling. And, being an author, being a storyteller, it has this kind of, it's not just, it's a song. Each song has a story behind it and, a journey and in itself, but then with you, like your relationship to it. And it's such a rich history.
Yeah.
Both because it has been every year, then every generation, and we're all different generations. Well, no, you're probably the same, but it has that connection, and we'll have a different.
I got into it, and the first thing I became aware of it was Gina G in '96, and I was like, "What is this shiny, sparkly lady?"
Yeah,
and I think that is when you talk about Eurovision with people our age, most gays would be like Gina G.
Yeah, do you know what I should have met? Yeah.
It was just
epic.
Always has been joyous and glorious, and
I think that's it. Like, it's joyous.
And it is,
and it was never so many people are those too cool for school people, and I was never, surprise, one of those. So I think the nerdiness, and it's now cool. I mean, even before, I'm maybe come on to this, well, next year, but 2023 in a minute, but it has got more credibility now because of all the work that's been done. But
we've been really bad at Eurovision for 20 years. Like, we were really, really good at it. We're one of the countries that has won the most. But you would not know that from the last 20 years because we just got stuck in around 20, so I think we came third in 2002. And then that was it. Like, I think the next year was the one we got nil point, like the first year with Gemini. And that's it. And we just got stuck in that. We never updated it. We kept saying, this is what you do for Eurovision. You do something that's camp, and this is, you do a key change, and you do it in this kind of key, and you do. And I read this fantastic analysis being like, everybody else pretty much moved on.
I read the same
thing.
It was a really interesting,
really good breakdown. And I'm really, 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 I'm going to get emotional. So, like, tap music came along and we're like, no, we're fixing this. And they found Sam Ryder of TikTok fame, and they just had the right attitude and they had the respect for it. And like, that was so important for me, being at two brewers down in there and just like surrounded by all the queers and just watching Sam on stage. And I was screaming and crying because I was just like, we've finally got it again, and I just really hope it won't go away. It's
so true. We had stayed in a particular lane, and everyone else had moved, and we were just like over here being like, "This is what you send to you."
Yeah, the 100%.
It's, I think, having to take it seriously, and I think with I don't want to necessarily call it camp, but things like that, which are seen as frivolous, you have to play it seriously. And when they're trying to, we're just going to write something camp, it doesn't work.
Yeah,
I do love Scooch, I have to say.
On that subject, there is someone in this studio who's going to remain nameless, not me, who has dated someone from Scooch. Yeah. But they're not on camera right now. So.
Well,
but I do
this
love how
person
they're
is
all
being
looking
pointed
at each other to try and work out.
Someone's gone really.
And someone's saying, "Is it me? I don't remember that. That was a wild night. Was it me?" That's who that was.
How do you feel about it coming to the UK?
I had hotels booked in all 7 cities, like 2 different hotel bookings for the 2 different weeks it could have been.
I have questions here. Don't you feel guilty about all those hotels that you are now cancelling on?
No, because they were all...
No, I don't care. I don't care about those small family businesses.
Well, because I knew I would be cancelling them like now, not in April where they wouldn't get a chance to recuperate or whatever, but also it was all like, no, I didn't pay anything. It was all like pay later, and you totally free to cancel. And so I didn't want to gamble. I didn't want to miss out on this opportunity. Like, I don't know if I'll get tickets or whatever. That's kind of not the point. The point is to go and be with everybody and just sort of have that atmosphere. And I hope we're going to do a really good job, because I've got that kind of Olympic spirit back. Like 2012 Olympics was fantastic, and I like, come on, let's do it proud. Let's do it proud for Ukraine, because I think that's another great thing about Eurovision is it was literally created to promote peace. And it was a bit like, oh, of course Ukraine are going to win this year, and then they did, but like, so like, that's...
Helen, I love the fact that although that a political person of you is like, yes, that's a very good thing, not really, because you're still bitter, aren't you?
You're like, we won, really.
I mean, I was like, we basically won. And also, what gets me is usually, and this is like so painful for me, usually Ukraine is my favourite. I love Ukraine.
Done amazing entries.
They've got so many fantastic entries. And most years I'd be like, yes, you know what? I'd love them to win. And I did like the song this year, and I have to say it grew more on me with the music video. But for me, performance is half the thing. It's like, that's half the points for me.
Yeah.
And it was just 6 weirdos standing on stage. And I was like, what is this?
I didn't know you were on stage.
Kate was the one in the beard.
It's you and your BioAsia going on. You just never see
Never
me.
see you. If only. Okay, final question then. What is mediocre about you?
So I would like to talk this in kind of a positive way, because I said before I am an overachiever and I don't really believe in mediocrity. But
It exists. I'm sitting in front of you. Let me tell you.
I'm right here. No, so in work, we talk about a mountain of mediocrity. And I think it's a joyous thing because it's like we were talking about being free earlier. And we're romance writers. We're not here trying to write the great American novel. Like if you're traditionally published and you want to write a book every 3 years or whatever, and then that's fine. That's not what we're doing. Romance readers are voracious. They'll read a book a day. Some will read 2 books a day. So, they'll put audiobooks on like 1.5 speed and they will get through them. So rather than kind of trying to write the perfect book, it's like, just get it out, then write another one. Like, I love all my books.
Oh, I love that.
But it's like, no, don't be worrying about it. So we talk about the mountain of mediocrity is basically back catalogue, because that's where a lot of like sales come from, and like that's what keeps paying the bills, and that's what means that you can be a full-time author. If you slave over and agonize over like a book, and then release it. And I see this with newbie authors all the time. They're so excited. They put so much effort into it. And then they're like, oh, it's coming out in 2 months, whatever. I'm like, God, I've written another book by then.
Yeah.
So I'm on my 6th book of the year, and I'm hoping to get a 7th one done by the end of the year. And it's, and it's sort of like giving permission to, I still think that my books are quality and I love them. I'm very passionate about them. And I call them, the characters my book babies. And like, I want them all to have their perfect happy ever afters, but it's not about crafting every single sentence and agonizing
It's about
over
getting something out there.
Yeah, it's just about like, just write the book and then write another one.
That's kind of how I feel about comedy. Is I think it's really important to actually get the stuff out there. I think it'd be really easy to just sit at home writing your stuff and never put it out in the world. And a bit like Liz Truss's economic plans, you need to see how it deals with reality.
Before it all falls apart.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's it. And some things stick to the wall and some things don't. And then if you haven't, I released a book this year that I was like, oh, this is great, this is wonderful, this is going to do really well. And it did all right. And I was like, we'll move on to the next one then. And you just, sometimes you get a good feeling about a book, and then other times, and you're right or you're wrong. And then you just keep going, just keep going. And like the fact that I can call this my full-time job, and I'm successful and is so important to me, because I really did hate my day job, like stuck in an office doing something that I ate and I didn't care about. I was very constrained, sort of the 9 till 5. The freedom that I have in my life now, it's like, I'm so grateful for it. And I'm like, each of those little books are just, I've got this great gift where it's an octopus like putting bricks in a wall, and it's like slathers it on and then puts the next bricks in the wall. And we love that one to be like, no, just another brick in the wall, as
I love that.
the song goes.
I love that. And but it's not just the writing, it's the selling of them as well, and the promotion of it.
Yes.
And how do you, because that has to be, that's half the job, right?
I mean, I don't make it half the job. I mean, so you do things to help yourself out, like building up a newsletter. I've got a Facebook group, and, like trying to cross promote with other authors and stuff. But yeah, I mean, like, especially a lot of authors have like personal assistants, and I just don't, I feel like I'd spend more time managing the assistant than I would actually just doing the thing. But yeah, you have to be continuously active and like, yeah, I mean, like just building up an Instagram following, just trying to get people something. So my job was sort of my day job was in the office was sort of marketing adjacent, and we talked about like the 7 points of contact within marketing. You just want to try and hit people from 7 different ways. Yeah. So you can't just send a newsletter. You want to ideally catch them on Facebook, or catch them and different parts of Facebook, in your group, or in, we go into other people's groups and like do giveaways and like, play games and like, enter this competition to win a free book from my back catalogue, and, Instagram. And I haven't touched Book Talk. I think I'm too old. like sort of
Even
poke at
that.
it, like
BookTok. Is
Yeah.
that TikTok for books?
Yes, and like Bookstagram.
Oh, God.
Oh God.
People do dedicated things, whereas I would rather just be on Instagram and get people to like me as a person and then
Yeah.
be like, oh, I've got a book. Like, so another statistic is like you ideally want like 80% of your content to not be promotion,
Yeah.
to not be. So you want to draw people, like, so I see my
How you get
Instagram.
engagement, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like you want people to be like, you want to occupy real estate in someone's brain and be like, you know, Helen Juliet, she writes fairy tales, but she also does dance and she also does, you know,
Yeah.
X, Y, and Z. And she, you know, like you want them to kind of get to know you and have a loyalty to you. And then, you know,
Yeah.
that translates into.
And not just buy this.
Yeah,
buy this,
exactly.
yeah.
Because that's just going to shut people
So,
down.
how do our listeners and viewers find out about you?
So yeah, my Instagram is Helen J Writes, as in the letter J. And if you want to join my Facebook group, that's Helen's Jewels, because we're all sparkly. And that's probably the best. I mean, I do have websites for helenjuliet.com and hjwelch.com. That's HJ Welch, not HG Wells, which I
That's going to take
realised.
someone slightly different.
Yeah, when you see it written down, it's fine. But when you say it, the amount of people that go, H.J. Wells, and I'm like, no, I don't even write sci-fi. I'm sorry.
You're slightly disappointed. Or educated. Amazing. Okay, great. Well, thank you for coming. That was
thanks
really
for
great.
having me.
Thank
It's
you.
been really fascinating.
And now I'm excited about your. Well, I mean, I was excited before, but we did book a hotel,
Yeah.
but it's 12 miles away from Liverpool.
Oh, well, I mean, you're lucky you got anything.
We did do it on the Friday night it was announced, so it was quite remarkable. So, and I think we are going to have to do a. Oh, yeah, we'll talk about doing a pod live from Liverpool
anyway.
later. Yeah.
You can catch me on Instagram. I'm Mr. David Ian.
And I'm on Instagram as KTS Dale.
And we'll catch you again soon.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Mediocre Gay, the podcast. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe and give us a 5-star rating. It helps other people find the show.
Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Mediocre Gay Pod or share your mediocre secrets with us on mediocregaypod@gmail.com.